Good morning. Now, today's session is on the two major scientists, S.N. Bose and J.C. Bose. Okay, so let us see about J.C. Bose. First, some of his major discoveries. He was a prominent personality who has helped the world by contributing his achievements in the field of physics. And in addition to the study of physics, he also has made reasonable contributions in the study of the life of plants and animals. And he said that just like humans, plants also have emotions and feelings. Just as we breathe, plants also breathe, and just as we die, even plants also die. So the plants and animals were have got a close relationship as that of the humans. So that was what he has established. He said that both plants and animals have various features which are similar to that of human beings. So he was a polymath physicist, biologist, biophysicist, botanist, and archaeologist. So he has made his own signature in all these fields. Then he was also a writer of science fiction in British India. Then he was the first inventor in the investigation of radio and microwave optics. As I already said, he has made contributions especially to the plant and animal science. Then he also laid the foundations of experimental science in Indian subcontinent. So that was his some of his major areas of study. Then this is his life history. He was born in 1858 in Bangladesh. He attended a village school. From there, he moved to Calcutta, and then he did his study at St. Xavier's. Um, and he was interested in biology, and his father was a physics professor. And then he obtained his BA in physical sciences. Then later he continued his studies. He then obtained his BA degree from Christ College, Cambridge. Finally, he returned to India, and then he joined as assistant professor of physics at Presidency College, Kolkata. Then he until 1915 he continued there as the professor. Then he refused his salary but worked for 3 years. That is, so he was more dedicated to his work. Then he was an excellent teacher, and he also has demonstrated various scientific experiments in the class itself. And he some of his students, such as S.N. Bose. About S.N. Bose we will learn now. His student also became famous physicist, that is S.N. Bose. Then next is about uh, a crystallograph. J.C. Bose, as already said, is one of the prominent Indian scientists who proved by experiment that both animals and plants share much in common. That we already said, that is, both plants and animals have many features common to that of humans. So he demonstrated that plants are also sensitive to heat, cold, light, noise, and various other external impulses or stimuli. So for that, Bose constructed a sophisticated instrument called chrysograph, and it is nothing but an instrument that could record and observe plants' minute responses to external stimulants. So that is meant by chrysograph, an instrument that record and observe the minute responses of a plant to external impulses. Then that instrument is also capable of magnifying the motion of plant tissues to about 10,000 times its actual size. That is, it has got high magnifying power. Then now the Central Hall of Royal Society in India was packed with audiences and many scientists on May 10, 1901. And most of the people were curious to know about this experiment, that is Bose experiment. about this chrysograph. That is, he demonstrated that experiment in that hole. So it was, that hole was crowded. What he proved was that plants also have feelings just like that of human beings. He proved that using this instrument chrysograph. Then this was the experiment that he has performed. That is, he selected a plant whose roots are dipped in up to its stem, that the roots were dipped in a vessel containing bromide solution, which is actually a poison. Then he plugged in the instrument with the plant, and he viewed the lighted spot on a screen showing the movements of the plant as its pulse beat, and the spot began to move to and fro just like that of a pendulum. Within minutes, the spot that was shown vibrated in a very violent manner, and later that vibration stopped all on a sudden. So the whole thing was almost like a poisoned rat fighting against death. So that means that the plant had died due to the exposure to the poisonous bromide solution. That was the experiment that is he has demonstrated. So just like humans are exposed to poison, the plants also behaved in the same way as humans respond to poisonous solutions. Okay. Then, using this instrument, chrysograph, he also did further researches on the response of plants to fertilizers, light rays, and wireless waves. So, these are the experiments that he had done with chrysograph, and so he believed that plants feel pain and they also understand affection just as we humans do. So, he has worked along without the right kind of scientific instruments and laboratory. For a long time, he had been thinking of building a laboratory. So he was very interested in doing experiments concerned with plant life and animal life. So he just wanted to establish a lab of his own in order to demonstrate or in order to practice his experiments. So the final outcome was the establishment of a research institute in Kolkata named Bose Research Institute. Then it continues to be a famous center of research in basic sciences. Then he wrote various books, and some of them are Response in Living and Non-Living, The Nervous Mechanism of Plants, etc. Even he has got 27 publications in the international reputed journal Nature. Finally, he was elected as the Fellow of Royal Society FRS in 1920. Then there is a crater on the moon, that is a big hole that is crater on the moon, and that was also named after him. Then, as already said, he has done various researches in radio waves, especially millimeter band radio waves, and that was one of his milestone discoveries, and it was recognized as IEEE milestone in electrical and computer engineering, the first such recognition of a discovery in India. So he was actually a legend as well as an inspiration to millions of youth and students who will bring science to a new level in the future. So that's all about J.C. Bose. Now we will learn about his student who has later become a famous scientist, that is S.N. Bose. Now the terms Higgs boson, which you might have learned or which you might have heard in newspapers and all. So these terms Higgs boson and Bose-Einstein condensate are actually a matter of pride for every Indians. Now S.N. Bose, he is also called by name Father of God particle because he is famous for his work on the elementary particle called boson. That is, it is just a particle that is named after him. That is God's own particle, boson. So since because of that discovery, he is also called father of the God particle, boson. He was an Indian physicist, but he has got prominence in mathematics and theoretical physics. He has got a lot of interest, especially in chemistry, philosophy, then arts, literature, and music. Then his research in physics almost covered Einstein's theory of relativity, Planck's radiation law, etc. He also collaborated with Einstein, and that led to the breaking outcomes like Bose-Einstein statistics. which actually helped in the development of a new branch of modern physics called quantum statistics. This is his life history. He was actually born into a middle class family. Then he was born in West Bengal. Then his father was an accountant in Indian Railway Company, and his father actually encouraged his skills in, that is his mathematical skills, and that is he used to give him problems every morning, and which he SN Bose used to solve. And he earned his master's degree in applied mathematics from University of Calcutta in 1915. Then Bose and his friend Meghnad Saha became an eminent astrophysicist. Then uh, he enabled um, his interactions with famous scientists and all, actually upgraded his knowledge in various fields like electromagnetism, relativity, spectroscopy, statistical mechanics, and thermodynamics. Later, at the end of 1916, he started giving applied mathematics lectures, that is, classes. And in 1917, he started giving mathematical physics lectures in Calcutta University. Later, Bose, along with Saha in 1919, published English translations of Einstein's special and general theory of relativity. In 1921, he became a reader in physics at University of Dhaka. Then which is actually now known by the name Bangladesh Bose, uh, which is now in Bangladesh. And then he also have delivered many lectures to his postgraduate students. Then one problem he faced was on Planck's radiation formula. That is, in 1905, Einstein had taken Planck's proposal of quantized energy and applied statistics to it. That is, Einstein, he tried to modify Planck's theory or Planck's radiation law, and that is which actually is meant to describe the behavior of large number of gas particles. So this actually allowed Einstein to describe photon, the particle of light, for the first time. So it was through that theory that Einstein introduced the concept of photon. Okay, then Bose statistics. Uh, he proposed a statistical law, that is Bose statistics, and in that he said that particles are indistinguishable from one another. So Bose replaced Boltzmann classical statistics with his own. So by doing this, he was able to derive Planck's radiation law in a way that pleased him. So it was actually Planck who derived radiation law. Later, Einstein has made a few modifications to that Planck's radiation law, and finally Bose again modified that law, and it was given the name Bose statistics. So in that he said that the particles are indistinguishable from one another. That is, you cannot distinguish between particles. That is, they are in their own way, each of them are different. So Bose actually did not realize just how groundbreaking his work was. That is, he did not know about the importance of the discovery that he had. Later, he sent a paper entitled Planck's Law and the Hypothesis of Light Quanta to a particular magazine called Philosophical Magazine, which is actually a physics journal. Then uh, that is, he sent his this particular discovery, that is particles are indistinguishable, that concept he has introduced in that particular book, the Philosophical Magazine. But unfortunately, like Bose, the journal referees actually did not realize the importance of that paper, and for the time being, his discovery at that time was a failure. That is, at that moment they did not recognize the importance of the discovery that he have made. In this, later he sent his paper directly to Einstein. Then Einstein instantly saw the Bose work was very valuable, and although even he did not see its full far reaching significance at first, and this actually took him a few days. Later, that discovery gained a lot of importance in the future. So in that, Planck's law contained a factor that is 8 pi nu square by c cube. C is the velocity of light and nu is the frequency of light. Okay, so the mixing of classical theory and quantum theory in one equation had been a perpetual source of discomfort for physics working in the field. So, classical theory has its own concept and quantum theory has its own concept. So, when we mix those two theories, definitely there will be a discomfort. So, Bose had been able to produce a term 8 pi nu square by c cube factor without using classical physics. That is, he introduced the same factor without introducing the concept of classical theory. That is, he just mentioned about quantum theory. Instead, the factor arose naturally from the argument that photons with equal energy were indistinguishable from one another. So, so he has introduced, that is, Bose has introduced this term without mixing it with the classical theory. That is, he explained that term only in terms of quantum theory. So that actually proved his concept that particles are indistinguishable from each other. Later, Einstein translated Bose's work into German and he has arranged for it to be published in a reputed German journal. Then later Einstein replied to Bose on his discovery that his work was actually an important step forward and that he liked the discovery of Bose very much. So that was actually a great appreciation to Bose from Einstein. So Bose's paper is now recognized as one of the most important theoretical papers in the theory of quantum mechanics, and this gave up a new field called quantum statistics. Then some of the outcomes they have described that they are just explaining it with the help of an example. So I think this you need not study this, you can skip. Okay, no need of studying this slide. Now let us discuss about another discovery. So first discovery was about Higgs boson, that is God's own particle, then Bose-Einstein condensation, etc. Now we are going to learn about uh, this one, that is Bose-Einstein condensate. That is, what is Bose-Einstein condensate? It means that in Bose-Einstein condensate, a collection of particles exist in the same identical quantum state. The particles are indistinguishable from one another. That is called Bose-Einstein condensate. So Bose has made a lot of contributions and along with Einstein, and that's why both their names are given. That is Bose-Einstein condensate. Actually, it took nearly 70 years from Einstein's prediction for a pure single entity to be seen. That was a long time discovery. Then he explained this Bose-Einstein condensate with the help of a superfluid called helium 2. So helium superfluid helium 2 is a very familiar example that shows the effects of Bose-Einstein condensate. That is, when liquid helium is cooled to about 2 degrees of absolute zero, it behave like a Bose-Einstein condensate. That is, it behave like a indistinguishable particle. That means its atoms will have same quantum state and its quantum mechanical behavior is quite visible. However, at or below 2.17 Kelvin, what happens to this helium 2 is that it flows or it starts flowing without friction. That is, it has become a superfluid. It is now behaving like a superfluid. That means it has got zero viscosity. That is, no restriction. It is free to flow. That is called a superfluid. That is, at the same time its flow is more rapid or quick. Okay, then a vacuum container which seemed to be leak tight could suddenly leak helium rapidly as the superfluid moved up through a microscopic hole. And a vertical tube can even produce a fountain effect as the superfluid move up the walls and out of the top. So as already said, below 2.17 Kelvin, this helium 2 will behave like a superfluid. That is, it will flow very rapidly and very quickly without experiencing any viscosity. That is, viscosity is zero. And when it is allowed to move up a vertical tube, it will come out of the tube, or it will rush from the outlet of the tube in the form of a fountain, which is called by the name, that phenomenon is called by the name fountain effect. Then uh, in 1946, Dirac uh, coined two new words to cover the two groups of particles that exist in subatomic world. That is the boson, which is actually named after S N Bose, and the other one particle like boson was the fermion. It was named after the scientist Enrico Fermi. So any indistinguishable particles having zero or integral spin will obey Bose statistics and is called as a boson. One such example is the photon. Now, there are some identical indistinguishable particles having half integral spin, and they obey Fermi-Dirac statistics, and they are called fermions. An example is electron. Okay, here we have distinguished, there are two, they are introducing two particles. One particle is boson, which is named after the scientist Bose, and the other particle is fermion, which is named after the scientist Fermi. Okay, what are bosons? They are indistinguishable particles having zero or integral spin. Example, photon. What are fermions? They are indistinguishable particles having half integral spin, and example is electron. Now, fermions obey Pauli's exclusion principle, whereas bosons do not. So, Bose actually was a great popularizer of science, and he just simply loved science. Also, he was also a strong supporter of Indian independence, and he believed that one of the best ways to secure a prosperous future for independent India was to have a well educated, enlightened population. Then he received his PhD degree, and he has been awarded one of his invention of quantum statistics. And later he returned to University of Calcutta, and he was the professor there until 1956. And he also made reasonable contributions to the field of X-ray crystallography, and he has established a lab for this of his own, which is called X-ray crystallography laboratory. He was awarded Padma Vibhushan for his contributions in the field of general relativity. He was also elected as the Fellow of Royal Society FRS in 1958, and he was also appointed as National Professor in 1951. Uh, as a token of appreciation for his great contributions, Government of India established S.N. Bose National Center for Basic Sciences in Kolkata in 1986. So that's all about the brief history and contributions of the two main eminent scientists, J.C. Bose and his student S.N. Bose. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you.